Now, today is International Albinism Awareness Day. 1 in 5,000 people in Sub-Saharan Africa has albinism. Unfortunately, this makes many targets, and the fight to ensure their safety continues. There is a price on the heads of people with albinism in Tanzania, whether dead or alive, regardless of whether they are children or not. Now, to discuss the challenges of people with albinism, I'm joined by Unicef Disability-Inclusion Specialist, Yetnebersh Molla, who joins us live right now. Yetne, how safe is it right now, would you say, for any person living with albinism?
Thank you so much for having me this morning. And as you rightly mentioned, albinism is one of the factors which hinders people from full participation. And unfortunately, in our region, especially in Sub-Saharan Africa, in the Eastern and Southern Africa region, we have quite so many persons, including children, who are being targeted by criminals, being killed, and their bodies being mutilated and being attacked in a number of situations at their home, in their way to school. So we had quite several deaths in this region. Last year only we had a 3-year girl mutilated in Malawi. We had another child also kidnapped in Madagascar, and also families and caregivers being endangered for protecting and keeping their children with albinism with them. So it's unfortunately a very alarming human travesty that we are witnessing, that a person, for being born with a skin pigmentation, is being a target for their violation of right to life.
Yetne, these sporadic violations on people with albinism, are they confined to just the continent which we are on, which is Africa, or do they exist elsewhere in other parts of the world as well?
Albinism is a worldwide situation. So we have persons with albinisms in all parts of the world, in all sexes and in all races. Unfortunately, the attack and this kind of violations are mainly resulting from lack of awareness and myths that are surrounded in the community. So we know that they also exist in other parts, but unfortunately Africa is hitting the record, and especially Sub-Saharan Africa has recorded a huge number of the attacks. But we have the news that it also happens in some Asian countries, but I should say that the worst and the big, number of cases in terms of attacks and in terms of these violations, Africa is unfortunately on top of the list.
In terms of the awareness, which we are obviously, we are aware, this is the day for, today, what should we be doing as people?
I think it's important to associate ourselves with the theme of the day. Inclusion is strength. And as UNICEF, we really believe that children who grow up in an inclusive environment are big assets for inclusive society. So I think we should definitely break the social silence and talk about it so closely. And we should definitely understand how albinism is manifesting. It's only a skin pigmentation, a color issue. However, it can be aggravated to bring visual difficulties, seeing, because the pigmentation mostly happens on the skin, on the eyes, or on the hair. So we shouldn't really make color a big factor towards proving and disproving humanity. So we should definitely break the silence. We should make sure that we create a community where children with albinism, as well as all persons with albinism, feel safe, loved, and included. Because I think color cannot be a determinant factor as to where you want to reach and who you want to be. So I would like to say that all of us, including media, religious leaders, decision makers, politicians, have a big role to play to inform what's the cause and how can we really help and support our children with albinism in this region and elsewhere, that they realize their full potential. We should place in any of the world against the persons with albinism, including targeting children.
Yetni, thank you so much for chatting to us this morning. Today is International Albinism Awareness Day.